And anytime you're talking about being prepared, the number one thing you want to think about is water. How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the Pilot Patriot channel. Anytime you're talking about being prepared, the number one thing you want to think about is water. I know a lot of us probably take for granted just being able to go over to the sink and turn on an endless supply of water, but it might not always be like that. In emergency situations like natural disasters or ice storms, the supply of water you have in your home and at local stores can get wiped out pretty fast. We've all been to the grocery store when we know there's a big storm coming, and we've seen how fast those shelves can go empty. So if you're in one of those situations and your power's out, you don't have any access to water, maybe your water's contaminated for whatever reason, what are you going to do? The average person can only live without water for 3 days. But we also have to think about water for other things like cleaning, cooking, and even flushing the toilet. If you really think about it, the average family could use up to 100 gallons of water per day. By the time you take showers, you cook dinner, wash dishes, wash clothes, flush the toilet a few times a day, not to mention what you're drinking throughout the day. Now, in an emergency situation, you're going to have to live on a lot less than that. A good standard to strive for would be 1 to 2 gallons per person per day, minimum. Now think about how many days you might need that. Is it going to be 1 week, 2 weeks, a month? So we know we need to store at least some emergency water, but how do we do it? One of the easiest ways is just to stack up cases of bottled water. You can usually pick up a case for about $3 to $4 at the grocery store. They're cheap, they're portable, and as long as you store it in a cool, dry place, it should last a good long time. You could stack them up out of the way in a closet or even under your bed. Now, if you know that some kind of disaster is coming your way, filling up your bathtubs is a great way to make sure you have a large amount of water for cleaning and flushing toilets and things like that. Another thing you could do is use a product called a water bob to fill your tub up with clean, drinkable water. I'll roll in a picture of what that looks like, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. Utilizing rain barrels is also a great way to store water. You can use it for watering a garden or giving to your pets to drink. And if needed, you can even filter it with something like a Berkey water filter and drink it yourself if you run out of all your other stored water. But those are just a couple things you can do in addition to your emergency water stores that we're about to talk about. Now, my favorite way to store water long term is in these 5-gallon stackable water jugs. These are perfect for stacking up a large amount of drinking water. These containers are BPA free, and the blue color really helps to keep the light out so the water inside stays good longer. These things are also very portable in case you need to transport them somewhere. This thing, when it's full, weighs about 40 pounds. Now, when I first started storing water, I used the 7-gallon Reliance containers that you see on the bottom there. You can get those at Walmart, and they work great, but a word of warning. Even though these containers look like they're stackable, when they're full, they're too heavy, and the bottom one will get crushed, even if they're only stacked too high. You won't have that problem with these 5-gallon containers. And that's why I prefer the 5-gallon containers, but I will put a link to both of those in the description below, along with some bigger options like 55-gallon barrels. Those are a great way to store a lot of water, but obviously they're not easily moved. And if you decide you are going to use barrels, make sure they're new barrels and they're clean so you don't end up with contaminated water. And you will need some kind of pump to pump the water out when you need it. Now, like I mentioned, the water needs to be treated properly before storing it away. And the way I do it is with this Aquamira water treatment. This stuff is specifically made for storing water long term. Now, you'll hear people talk about using bleach, and that may work, but it's going to taste terrible. And I definitely don't recommend doing it that way unless you don't have any other option. It comes in 2 parts like this. It's going to kill all the odor-causing bacteria and any other contaminants that might be in the water, and it's going to stabilize it for up to 5 years. Now, just this package right here can treat up to 60 gallons. So you can treat a lot of water with this, and there's no aftertaste. Now let's go and I'll show y'all how to treat the water with the Aquamira water treatment. Alright, next thing we need to do is go ahead and mix up the Aquamira. You're going to do equal parts of part A and part B. It calls for 1 teaspoon of each. So we'll go ahead and mix that up. You can use any container that you have. I'm just going to use this glass. Alright, go ahead and stir it up a little bit. And we're just going to let that sit for 5 minutes. It does have a little bit of a chlorine smell at first, but don't worry, that won't affect your water. And also, once it's finished mixing, it will get a little bit of a yellow color. You'll see that when we come back to it, but that won't affect your water either. That's completely normal. Next thing you want to do is make sure your container's clean. So we're going to put some water in there, and we're going to put just a little bit of regular Dawn dish soap in there and shake it up and then rinse it out to make sure the inside is clean. So we got some water in there. We're just going to put 1 little squirt of dish soap in there. We'll put our lid back on and just shake it up good to make sure it's clean. After you've done that, you can go ahead and pour that out. And then just keep rinsing until all that soap is out of there. And once you've got all the soap out and you've got your container clean, you're ready to go ahead and put your treatment in there. Now, like I told you earlier, it is going to have a little bit of a yellow tint to it, and that's okay. That's completely normal. It's not going to turn your water yellow. It won't affect your water at all. So what I like to do is I go ahead and put some water in first, then I pour the treatment in, and then I fill it the rest of the way with water to make sure it's good and mixed up. So let's do that. Now once you've got it about halfway full, that's when I go ahead and pour my treatment in there. Make sure you get it all in there. And then you're ready to go ahead and fill it up the rest of the way. Now once it's full, you can go ahead and put the lid on. As you can see, the lid does have a waterproof seal in there. And we'll go ahead and put that on. And as you can hear, it locks in good. Make sure you got it nice and tight, and you're good to go. Now I've attempted to dry this thing off, and like I said, it is 40 pounds, but I'm going to try to flip it over so you guys can see that it's not going to leak. As you can see, I've got it upside down and it's not leaking at all. Now I'll get back to you guys. I got 4 more of these bad boys to do. Now once you've got all your containers filled up, you are going to want to go ahead and label it. That way you remember when it was treated and approximately when you need to use it by. Like I said before, with the Aquamira treatment, it will be good for at least 5 years, possibly more. Even after that, I'm sure you could filter it and it would be fine. But definitely make sure you label your containers so you can keep track of that. So that's how it's done, guys. This is how I store mine. This is just going to be in a closet with some other emergency items that I have. You want to make sure it's a cool, dark place so that water lasts as long as it possibly can. Now, no matter what method you use for storing emergency water, just make sure you do. It's the #1 most important prep you can have for yourself and most importantly for your family. Now make sure y'all check out the links in the description below for the products that we talked about in this video. And if you're interested in storing emergency food long term, make sure you check out this video at the top of the screen. If y'all have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.